Another hot summer is here. Do you know how much water your landscape needs? You might be surprised because less is more. Mandatory summer watering restrictions are in effect May through August, and that means no watering from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and never on Sundays. Slowly increase watering your grass from 3 to 4 days a week and only add more days if you need it. For drip irrigated plants and trees, 4 days a week is plenty. Find water-saving tips at snwa.com. SNWA is a not-for-profit water agency.
The world of legal cannabis in Las Vegas has endured some bumps on the road since its inception. State officials say that illegal sales still amount to over $200 million annually. And this month, one of the city's most anticipated cannabis lounges, Smoke and Mirrors, closed its doors for good after only a year of operation. So what's going on? Today on CityCast Las Vegas, I'm talking with industry experts Lake Martin, the executive director of the Nevada Cannabis Association, and Scott Rutledge, cannabis industry consultant, about the serious challenges legal pot is currently facing. It's Monday, April 28th. I'm David Figler, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Hey, before we get into the convo, I want to share with you why I absolutely love making this show every day and why you should join our membership program called Neighbors. The world's too big and scary. No one's really happy to be scrolling and see all these crazy inputs that you don't know what to do with. When I have conversations with my actual neighbors, like people in my community, they don't look like the conversations that I'm hearing on national media. They're talking at me instead of with me, like I do with the local conversations that we have. And when I talk to my neighbors, we don't have D's or R's or any other political affiliation. We have common interests and we have challenges that we share with each other and we try to problem solve together. And that's what I like about what we're doing here is absolutely having the conversations, not like how do we fix all the problems in the world, but how do we deal with the situation 2 blocks over? The way to do it is to work through it with some of the smartest people in the community, the people who are invested here, who care here. When you really dig down into the core of like, how do these systems operate? Who's in charge of these systems? What are their thoughts? Why are they making the decisions that they're making? This is way more vital information to us than anything that I'm going to find scrolling on social media, that I'm going to find on cable news, or that I'm going to find, coming from a speech from a politician. This is the real deal. This is where we all have to be living right now. We are indeed all in this together, not against each other. That's why CityCast Las Vegas matters, is because anyone who either lives here or who is interested in what Las Vegas represents comes away with so much more from CityCast Las Vegas than they really can just reading the news. We talk about the news. We don't just report it, right? And I think that's the big difference. That's why I'm encouraging people to become a CityCast Las Vegas neighbor. It supports what we do here. And not only do you ensure we can keep having these essential local conversations, it gives you, as a neighbor, access to perks designed for people who love this city. So you not only get ad-free listening, you get to shout out your favorite local business or nonprofit on our podcast. We can amplify those places in our community that absolutely deserve it and maybe get overlooked. So head over to membership.citycast.fm and we will send you that adorable CityCast City Neighbors mug as a welcome gift. Again, that's membership.citycast.fm. Thank you both for being here on CityCast Las Vegas. I want to jump right in. When retail cannabis opened up in Las Vegas, gosh, it's been over 8 years now, the forecast was really sunny about growth, reduction in black market sales, big tax revenues, especially going to the schools. Lake, you're the head of the Nevada Cannabis Association. What are your members saying about how it looks right now for the industry?
We definitely have seen significant tax revenues for schools. Since rec was legalized, we have contributed $700 million directly to the state education fund. But we are seeing a decline in sales and a decline in tax revenue from a peak in 2021 of about $1 billion, and it's gone down significantly since then. We're at about $800 million in sales each year. There's optimism for sure. These are small Nevada-based businesses for the most part that have built these, whether it's a cultivation and production dispensary from the ground up, but there are significant obstacles, and we are seeing perfect market conditions for things like an illicit market to grow, with no taxes, no enforcement, no compliance costs. We don't have access to really get in front of tourists who are coming to Nevada because we are zoned away from the resort corridor completely. We can't deliver legal
Agreed.
cannabis to the Strip. But you know who is doing it? Unlicensed operators. So they are filling this demand with unlicensed, untested, untaxed product. And that's a huge, huge obstacle for the licensed cannabis industry. And we have not figured that out yet.
I think Nevada's dealing with some of the same issues we're seeing across the country. Bo Whitney, Whitney Economics, does an annual forecast, and he reduced the annual forecast for total legal cannabis sales by 2030 by almost $20 billion. These business owners, they're gritty, right? They have, like Lake said, they're the trailblazers. They were building a business model around something that hadn't existed before outside of the illicit market, right? And you don't run a legal business like you run an illicit business. And so a lot of the folks that helped build this industry, a lot of them are still here today, by the way, right? They've been at this for over 10 years. When you think about those that began with the medical market and what we can do as a community, both in our state laws and our local laws, is we should give this industry more opportunity to be successful, right? We got to look at some of these burdensome regulations. We've got to look at the tax structure, and we've got to find a way to just allow them to compete with this illicit market, as Lake said, that does not have any guardrails around it. I believe back in July, Whitney also had done a survey of cannabis businesses, and only 27% of cannabis businesses nationally said that they were profitable. So
Wow.
these are issues that I think underlie the structural problems with our industry, because we legalized cannabis back in 2016 and went into effect in 2017, and we saw this across the country, and unfortunately we continue to see this. We promise all of these heavy, burdensome regulations in order to balance out people's concerns about the federal illegality, and so we've almost overcompensated to have permission to sell these products.
Well, let me get into some of these aspects that you both talk about, because you both mention the black market. And as we noted here, it's vibrant, especially on the Strip. And state officials are saying that illegal sales are up to like $242 million a year. So why, when it is legal and like the product is tested and safer, are people still buying weed outside the sanctioned dispensary system?
Because they don't know, in many cases, is one of the main reasons why tourists are purchasing from the illicit market. If I'm at a resort on the Strip, if I pick up my phone and I search dispensaries near me, about half of the pops on my map will be unlicensed delivery companies, which will offer to deliver to my hotel.
Wow.
And if I don't know that that's illegal, like I can just order and have it delivered to my hotel. Licensed companies cannot operate on the Strip and cannot deliver to your hotel.
Yeah.
And then the other reason is taxes, right? Like it's super expensive to buy legal weed. And you pay about 22% at the register in taxes. And you're not paying that in the unlicensed illicit market.
Yeah, when you look at like a vape pen, right? We are not allowed to use certain products to, and I forget the term, but a vape pen is not just THC, right? You have to have a delivery method, right, inside some sort of a liquid. And I forget the chemical or the one product that has been banned because there are some challenges around that, right? If you're buying something from a vape pen from an illicit market dealer and they're not following the regulations, you don't know what you're going to get in that vape pen.
I'm hearing, though, that there is a bill in the assembly to actually crack down specifically on illegal sales on the Strip. Have you heard of that one?
Yeah, AB 203, sponsored by Assemblyman Max Carter, was attempting to do some really innovative things to help combat this. I don't know that it will end up looking like that, unfortunately. But what they were seeking to do is to allow license companies to deliver to non-gaming properties on the Strip. There is a very bright line between gaming and cannabis, and so cannabis is not allowed within 1,500 feet of the resort corridor, essentially, any non-restricted gaming license. And so it's only unlicensed companies that are breaking through that barrier and delivering directly to the Strip, whether it's a gaming property or not. And so Assemblymember Carter's thought was, okay, what if we have kiosks, or you can deliver to other non-gaming properties, like to allow tourists access to legal weed? But that doesn't look like that's going to end up coming out looking like that. I think that we are still going to be prevented from delivering to the Strip.
What's the challenge? I mean, is it just the gaming industry? And I guess why are they so adverse to legal weed?
Yes, it is the gaming industry that opposed that. And I don't want to speculate on all of the reasons why they are opposed to it. I know that it has a lot to do with it still being federally legal. I don't know if that makes sense with respect to zoning and why it has to be 1,500 feet. I know certainly for
obviously,
lounges.
1,500 feet away is going to solve all the problems of gaming and people who are high in their casinos.
Absolutely. Absolutely, because that's not happening now.
I
There's
mean,
nobody smoking weed on the Strip.
No, or in the Strip. And, I could just see them saying, excuse me, sir, you just hit on 22. Are you high? They're going to like, bet again, sir.
Yeah. The funny thing, too, about schools is it's 1,000-foot distance separation between schools and cannabis establishments and 1,500 feet between gaming and cannabis.
Again, gamblers are far more vulnerable than small school children. Yeah. Ready to win Mother's Day as the best gift giver in the family? Give the moms in your life an Aura digital picture frame preloaded with decades of family photos. Aura frames, they've been named the best digital photo frame by Wirecutter, and it is easy to see why. We love ours with its unlimited storage, and it is so simple to set up. I did it on my phone, and it took less than 2 minutes. My significant other and I started uploading silly photos of each other to our Aura, and we wait for the other person to notice. I just popped up this morning in the world's ugliest Mardi Gras mask. It brought back so many fun memories, but my turn is coming up. So if you want in on the fun, Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day. For a limited time, listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off plus free shipping on their best-selling Carver matte frame. That's auraframes.com, promo code CityCast. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Hey, it's your host, David Figler, popping in to tell you about our new CityCast Las Vegas Neighbors program. I know you've heard us talk about membership before, and many of you are already a part of it. Well, it's got a new name. We're calling it CityCast Las Vegas Neighbors because we've learned that people who support CityCast Las Vegas are people who care deeply about this city and want to make it better. They're just the kind of neighbors this city needs. We're also adding benefits. CityCast Las Vegas Neighbors will still have access to ad-free podcast listening and an exclusive weekly local events preview, but now you also get regular events like happy hours with other CityCast Las Vegas neighbors, local volunteering meetups, and other members-only events where we explore and better our city together. And you get a shout out to a local business or nonprofit you love on the show and in the Hey Las Vegas newsletter. So for $10 a month, you could become a CityCast Las Vegas neighbor today by going to membership.citycast.fm. That's membership.citycast.fm. We couldn't make this show without people like you supporting it, and we're so excited for you to be a part of it. I mean, honestly, even if I'm in a place where I'm just meeting someone for the first time and they're familiar with the podcast or they're curious about the podcast if it comes up in conversation, which frankly, I do make it come up in conversation quite a bit because I'm far more proud of being a podcaster than I think I ever was as a lawyer. They'll ask me about an interview that we had. They'll ask me about a restaurant we talked about. They'll ask me about a trend that they didn't know was occurring. And I've actually met up with people at some of the recommends during our monthly guide, and they're like, I would have not known about this but for CityCast. And it's so fun being able to experience that, not just in word, but in seeing the people at the place, which I said was going to be a great thing to go to. That's exactly why I'm inviting people to become CityCast Las Vegas members in our neighbor program. Become a CityCast Las Vegas neighbor. So head over to membership.citycast.fm. That's membership.citycast.fm. Well, it is weird to me, because it seemed like pot was a no-brainer, is a product that a lot of people want. A lot of people want it to be legal so that they're not breaking the law to do something they want. Just like gaming, it's heavily regulated. There's a lot of burdens and financial responsibilities, and yet it's dipping. Why is weed just not succeeding, despite a lot of people thinking it would have been a no-brainer?
What's so interesting about it being federally illegal still is that
Mm.
you could have the best business model in the world, you could have the best product in the world, and you still can't cross state lines. So you are limited to only selling in Nevada what is grown in Nevada. And no matter how great your product is, you can't sell across state lines. And so you have to carefully calibrate supply and demand. That's why we have a limited licensing structure in the state. And I think that when licenses were issued, certainly the number of tourists coming into Nevada was factored in because you're expecting that you're going to sell to those tourists as well. And so we need to make sure that, are we getting access to those tourists in a meaningful way? Are we able to advertise in a meaningful way? Are we able to, to bring them into the stores and the lounges because we aren't able to be located near where they are in the resort corridor?
One thing I would add to what Lake said is that in terms of the not being able to cross state borders, there was a report that recently came out from UNLV that essentially was ranking the Cannabis Policy Institute there, did a report that ranked states in terms of how they would fare in a federally legal market. And we were ranked number 5. And some of those factors were the low cost of land, power, and other factors. But I also think it speaks to the fact that we also have a very robust tourism industry, right?
Oh,
So
we do. Yes.
so
Yes.
right,
That is always the given here.
right. So when we talk about the total addressable market for Nevada cannabis businesses locally, with the opportunity to sell products, right? Let's say there's a future where at a casino you have a either dispensary or a lounge, right, where people are coming in and purchasing products that in the past they might have been purchasing from the illicit market. They might have been bringing with them because they brought it with them, right? That happens too. A lot of the drive-in traffic from California. So if we could treat cannabis truly like the way that we treat alcohol and give it the same positioning with consumers and say, look, we accept that, this is something you can choose. And we are seeing, by the way, more higher daily user numbers for cannabis than alcohol. I think that's a good thing when we think about the harmful impacts of alcohol, and especially if you look at a lifetime of alcohol consumption. We're seeing not only Gen Xers who are choosing to drink less, but you have this Gen Z generation who are not as keen on alcohol, right? And they're choosing cannabis, right?
Yeah.
So
They love their vapes. I see them.
yeah.
I
So
see
if we
them.
could, if we can't market to them in the same way that alcohol can, right? Where all these restrictions, we're still treating cannabis as if it's this thing that we shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, it does still have that stigma around it. And one of the solves that was touted because of the fact that you really can't use it outside your private residence was to create these consumption lounges, places where people can go. And while there were almost 100 applications, only 2 made it through that statutory consumption process. We went to the first one, Smoke and Mirrors, on our podcast. The crew had a lovely time there. It wasn't crowded though, and we worried about it. And now it's gone down to just one statutory consumption lounge, which is over at Planet 13. I should mention that Nuwu operates a lounge outside the system because they have a different set of structures, just because they're indigenous land. So, all that said, why are lounges struggling to even open, let alone thrive?
Well, you just mentioned one of the companies, Thrive. I
That
don't
was
know
my
if that was
pun,
is that your
Scott.
pun, David?
And I
Thank
saw
you.
Lake smiled at it.
I I was waiting for that pun. I'm a partner with Reset. My partner Chris Laporte and I advised Thrive for about 2 years, leading into the opening of Smoke and Mirrors. And to say that the business did not succeed based on the current regulatory structure, I think is challenging because there are a number of revenue streams that these businesses can avail themselves to, right? Food and beverage programs, number one, ticketed entertainment, things of that nature. I think one of the challenges was that no one else had done this before, right? So when you're the first, you, depending on your risk profile, you may want to start slow and then build in, right? And I know that was part of the planning in our discussions with their team. After the venue opened, we were no longer involved after May of last year. So I can't speak to the specific operations and things that were going on. I visited it a few times with my friends since then. But look, these venues cannot just be, in my opinion, a place where you go and purchase and consume cannabis. That can't be the only reason to go, right? Just like a bar or a place where you might consume alcohol, you're generally going to a place because there are things about that venue that you want to be there, right? The third place idea. And if you do not build out a space that it has a warm, inviting feeling, and then continue to add to that through hospitality and service, and then other offerings besides cannabis. I think these businesses will be challenged in terms of their business model. We've consulted with a number of licensees. You mentioned that were 100 applicants and only two have opened, but technically there were 40 licenses issued, and 20 of those were to retail attached. And then the other 20 went to independent, and half of those 10 went to social equity applicants. We've seen the same concerns with the social equity applicants as we have for the independent license holders, which is finding a location and finding investment capital.
Lake, why do you think that cannabis lounges work in places like Amsterdam? I mean, very celebrated, and not in Las Vegas.
We'll have to see. I think it's still early. There are a lot of license holders who do have their lounge licenses, but have waited to open. They were kind of waiting and seeing how these first couple went. I don't know that they're going to be
Yeah.
encouraged to jump in
Yeah.
right now,
Right.
for sure. But so I think even Thrive, I think the Thrive Smoke and Mirrors, it was beautiful inside, and they had a great cocktail program, great mocktail program. Like, it was just a really neat space, and I think it will be a useful space for events in the future. There are all sorts of cannabis friendly events that don't have locations that they can go to, and so sometimes they'll rent out private residences, things like that. Like now they can host events like that in that space. So I think there will be an opportunity for Thrive to continue to use the lounge model, whether it's for private parties or tastings or things like that. But in terms of when will more of them open? Gosh, access to the resort corridor would be a lot. Would be helpful in order
Yeah.
to allow them to
It's just
open
that
in areas
proximity.
where tourists,
Well, Thrive
where
was
tourists are going to walk by.
Smoke and Mirrors was right behind Resorts World, though.
But you still have to take a cab there or an Uber.
Yeah.
You can't walk right in. It's hard. It's a challenge to walk right there.
Yeah, not the best easy walk for a tourist, who especially doesn't know where they're going. So I think the next natural question is, looking forward, what are the biggest fixes on a legal or even a cultural level that need to happen, Lake?
So what we do, you're absolutely right. And so every 2 years, we go back to the legislature and ask for tweaks, whether it's regulatory enforcement reform or fixing how the taxes are calculated, or even just streamlining operations. So all the time we're going back and saying, okay, this needs to be fixed. This needs to be fixed. There's a whole lot in statute that needs to be changed and evolved. And we'll continue to do that. And then what are some of the biggest challenges? I mean, we need to allocate resources toward enforcement of both the illicit market and unregulated intoxicating hemp. This is a
What's
huge
that?
issue.
What's unregulated intoxicating hemp?
So if you go to a smoke shop, you can buy basically, I went to a smoke shop to buy some of this product and they're like, oh, it's young weed. What it is THCA. So it is basically cannabis that is tested early so that it doesn't pop high enough to be regulated cannabis. So when you're measuring the THC level, it shows up as less than it would be for legal cannabis. And so they're selling it in smoke shops. They're also selling...
And you're saying smoke shops, these are just places that you see dotting almost every single strip mall throughout the valley.
That's right.
100%.
Well, we used to call Mr. Bill's when I was a kid.
Yeah. So in addition to THCA, you can buy other intoxicating products. Synthetic cannabinoids are banned in Nevada, but they're still showing up in these products in smoke shops. It's kind of like spice again, right? They're designer drugs essentially, but they're marketed as hemp.
There were a lot of health problems with spice.
For sure. And these are basically unregulated as well. And so we're seeing them pop up because of a loophole in the 2018 Farm Bill, which arguably legalized like synthetic marijuana. And so all across the country, this is becoming a huge issue, less so in markets that already have an established recreational cannabis program. But in markets that don't, you are finding hemp products everywhere. In Texas
has
everywhere.
An $8 billion hemp market. $8 billion.
So good for the farmers and bad for our industry here. And those are the ones that we see even on like the Fremont Street Experience. There was like 3 of them that have a sign that says cannabis cannot be sold here. And yet it looks like a dispensary. It looks like a real dispensary. Like it has more pot forward like branding than any dispensary I have ever been in.
They have that sign right next to a giant pot leaf, right? And so they're intending to confuse tourists who know that cannabis is legal in Nevada, but don't know that they can't buy it under the canopy of the Fremont Street Experience. And so those are interesting products because some of those are absolute like low potency, nothing hemp flower that if you look at the reviews online for these places, they're like, they're ripping people off. The other option is they are selling like highly potent, intoxicating hemp products that are completely unregulated, untested, and dangerous.
Is there any legislation that's going after any of that you're aware of on any state, city, or, county level?
There are 2 bills. We brought a bill, SB 356 with Senator Lori Rogich. That one died on first committee passage, sadly. And so we're seeing if that language can go somewhere else because this is necessary legislation. And then there's a bill, AB 504, which would enable the Attorney General to use deceptive trade practices as a tool to go after some of these stores because it is essentially deceptive trade practices and requiring signage at county locations and other stores. Because right now that signage that you mentioned is just in the city of Las Vegas. They've passed an ordinance requiring that, but other local jurisdictions haven't.
Well, Lake, Scott, I really appreciate your insights into this very important topic for our community. Thanks for joining us on CityCast Las Vegas.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
All right, y'all. Before you go, a reminder that you could sign up for our membership program at membership.citycast.fm, and we'll send you that adorable CityCast Neighbors mug as a welcome gift. Again, that's membership.citycast.fm. And that's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. If you enjoyed the show, how could you not? You should go tell a friend. You could also rate our show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Till then, stay lucky.
Buy legal weed.
Buy legal weed.
What's that?
Buy legal weed.